Okay, hello everybody. My name is Stephen Wynne Jones, the editor of ESM European Supermarket Magazine. It's a pleasure to be with you today to moderate this panel discussion on glass and the point of sale in what is the International Year of Glass. So, over the course of this session, over the next half an hour or so, we're going to discuss how retail activations can successfully drive and increase sales when sustainable packaging options such as glass are offered to consumers. First, I'd like to thank the European Container Glass Federation and all its members for giving me the chance to moderate this session. And of course, a special thank you to today's participants for joining me to discuss this interesting topic: Future Made Clear, Learn from Carrefour, How Retail Activations Drive Sales. So first off, to start, let me introduce the first panelist here today. Hi to Scarlette Elizée, the Sustainability Outreach Lead and CSR expert at Carrefour in Paris. Hi, Scarlette.
Hi, Steve. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you here today, and I look forward to this discussion.
Great, thanks, Scarlett. We also have with us Karen Davies, who's the Secretary General of ANFEVI, the Spanish Glass Association, who has partnered with Carrefour on an impressive pilot marketing and communications project in Spain, which we're going to find out about today. Hi, Karen.
Hello, Steve. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here with all the attendees. Thank you for joining us, and especially with you, Steve, and Scarlett. As you said, I'm Karen Davies. I've been working in FEBI for more than 10 years, previously as communications manager for in organizing campaigns in favor of glass throughout all the value chain, and including this first time pilot test that we did along with Carrefour, which began as an ambitious project, grew beyond expectations, and has become an ongoing initiative of learning for Carrefour and the glass industry.
Excellent. Thank you, Karen, and indeed welcome again to all the people, the many dozens of or even hundreds of people that are joining us on this session today. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone watching us that at the end of the session, we will be opening up the floor for questions. You can post your questions on the comments chain on the live stream or indeed on the LinkedIn channel, and we'll try and get through as many of those as we can before we wrap things up. But let's get started with the session. The first question is for you, Scarlett. What do you think are the key priorities for consumers when it comes to purchasing behaviors, and how indeed is Carrefour identifying these behaviors?
Okay. Thank you, Steve. So, we're seeing more and more that our customers are concerned about where the product is coming from, how it's produced, under what conditions, and the impact on health and the environment. And the impact on environment is really a key issue, particularly packaging. And so we at Carrefour, we wanted to understand where the priority areas were for our consumers so we could then address action. So back in 2019, we carried out a consultation to find out what customers wanted to see from us. And we saw two main issues emerge. The first being local products, wanting to keep food produce local, particularly in France. And secondly, packaging, particularly over packaging. Consumers cited, particularly in the fruits and vegetables section and the bakery section. So then we use this survey to then prioritize our action to reduce packaging. And thanks to this, we've reduced 90% of packaging in fruits and vegetables in France. And this is part of our overall global strategy to reduce packaging waste by 2,000 tons by 2025.
Very good. So packaging for you has a role to play, not only about communicating about a product's composition, around local credentials, but also as part of a sustainability message at Carrefour.
Yes, yes. And, we understand that, packaging is very important, of course, for food safety, hygiene, and, keeping products fresh and limiting food waste. But it's also very important to differentiate the products, and it helps to valorize products as well and speaks to consumers. So for instance, glass packaging from a consumer perspective is quite positively viewed, and consumers can actually see the product, and it gives the product more of a luxury feel. And we of course know that consumers, when they come into our stores, they have very little time and attention span to make a decision.
So Carrefour priorities are around, in terms of offering sustainability and sustainable alternatives to shoppers. Packaging can play a role. Also, as you say, it can valorize products as well.
Exactly.
Very good. Turning to Karen now. Now, I understand that Anfevi has developed and implemented a new glass hallmark in Europe. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, it's a European project, really. It's done by Febe. And this glass hallmark is not an official certificate stamp, but a communications tool from our industry to communicate about recyclability and inertness. It represents the ability of the glass packaging to be recycled and ultimately preserve its content, conserving the original qualities of the content thanks to that inert nature. And our ambition is to elevate this glass hallmark into a universally recognizable symbol to communicate the sustainable benefits of glass at a glance.
Very good. And in terms of practical terms, what's the main objective of this? In terms of practical or commercial terms, I guess.
We want to raise awareness to consumers that by choosing glass today, they are actually ensuring a sustainable tomorrow. We want to remind them everything that they already love about glass, and also include the value that it can provide to achieve that future, make it a sustainable reality. We also want brands to use this glass hallmark proudly to support everything that it represents, which is in a sense the use of resources wisely, the commitment to recycle, and also protection to health, not only of consumers but also that of the planet. And so we can all thrive together for generations to come. And in that sense, we are allowing the brands to use this glass hallmark. It can be put in glass packed products. It can be put in as a symbol in the glass container itself, and also used in communication materials.
Very good. Back to you, Scarlett. In terms of this glass hallmark standard, obviously you've seen the use of labels and certificates on product packaging in the past. From your experience, does this work? Does it influence shopper behavior?
Okay. Now, great question. While price remains a key factor, and while consumers are increasingly basing their purchasing decisions on ethics, health, and impact on environment, and we're seeing more and more a trend towards this. So consumers basing their purchasing decisions on ethics, and this is why we've rolled out um, you know, um, Nutri-Score, enabling our consumers to actually see the nutritional rating of products. We've also rolled out EcoScore, which enables our consumers to see the environmental impact of products. And we've also made our product information available on open food facts, so enabling the use of other applications such as Yuka and Siga, etc. So we're seeing that consumers have really high expectations on the quality of products. And we as a retailer have to ensure that they can easily access this information, that it's visible, but not overbearing, as again, they're receiving many messages when they come into our stores with little time to make decisions.
Absolutely, and transparency. We're hearing so much about it in the industry at the moment, and it goes right down to packaging, product composition, all the various elements involved. Um, a good foundation laid down for the next part of the discussion, which is around the pilot I mentioned earlier, this marketing communications pilot implemented at Carrefour Spain, which showed that an increase of glass options on the shelves helps to boost sales. Karen, to you first. The pilot program I'm referring to, it started off as an advertising and marketing campaign, right? And then it evolved into something completely different.
Yes, that's correct. We carried out a special project we called the Marcom pilot with Carrefour here in Spain. It was a collaborate test that took place in two supermarkets in Spain, and the aim was to study joint sustainability strategies based on the analysis of the consumer purchases decisions when they have the ability to choose their product in glass. It took place in two different phases during 6 months, and we had an advertising media campaign where we highlighted glass as a leading sustainability material. And we had a special activation also put in place in the store that was focused on a specific category, which is in the freshly squeezed orange juice section, where we put glass packaging there so consumers can actually choose to take their freshly squeezed orange juice in glass instead of plastic, which is the container that was predominantly in that section. The results that we obtained showed that via the campaign we increased the remembrance of the sustainability of glass, and we also increased sales. So this proves that consumers really want to choose glass and want to have the opportunity to have that choice on the shelves.
Very good. And obviously, freshly squeezed orange juice is a category where, presentation is key. I mean, in terms of this particular project, I presume the expected results were achieved and maybe even exceeded, Karen. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. We were very surprised and glad by the results. We increased the sales by offering glass in this section. We also increased the awareness through the educational campaign in store, and displaying this special activation that was more marketing strategy more than communications. It allowed the consumers to make a sustainable choice in the category that was predominantly by plastic. So having the ability to switch and to make a more sustainable decision was very well received by consumers. And this proves that the added value of glass can give some space also to increase in sales for brands and retailers.
Very interesting. Scarlett, listening to what Karen's saying, what sort of learnings can you take from a project like this?
Yeah, so Steve, this project was really interesting, and it shows that when our consumers are presented with options that are more sustainable and that are convenient, they will adopt. One key point is the educational or awareness raising aspect, which is key for consumers to learn, to understand, to then incorporate, this action into their everyday life so that it becomes a habit. So there are a lot of key learnings that we can take with us moving forward.
Absolutely. And fostering this kind of normalization, this becomes part of everyday shopping behavior, is what every sustainability initiative is trying to obviously embed in the consumer mindset. Going back to you, Karen, interesting piece of information from the study I want to go into in a little bit more detail. There was an on-site customer survey conducted in the two pilot stores, and this found that 60% of the shoppers believed the campaign was actually being driven by Carrefour. Do you think the consumers expect this sort of sustainability initiative or upgrade from retailers?
Yes, we carried out an on-site survey to understand the perception of consumers with this pilot test and what they thought about it to be carried out, and who was the persons in charge of this. And it proved that consumers assumed directly that it was Carrefour or public institutions or the brands who were behind this campaign. So they think they were, or they should have been at least, working along with glass with these kind of initiatives. So this only gives us more space to collaborate with brands, retailers, public institutions, because it's an opportunity for all of us to improve our sustainability profile by bringing along glass as an option.
And you mentioned the key word there, collaborate, obviously, which is very much on trend at the moment.
Mhm.
One of the main outcomes of this pilot, am I right, was that, to invest in collaboration, sustainable education, promotion. This is the way forward to a certain degree. This is proving successful. Is that right?
It has. We saw also in the hard data that by investing in visual advertising in the point of sales, we increased in up to 23% the remembrance of the campaign and this and the messages linked to glass. But we also increased sales of glass pack products in 6.8%. So this is a fantastic news for the glass industry, of course, but also a great news for retailers that by choosing and highlighting products packed in glass, there is space to grow in sales, but also in profit margins because of all the added value that glass can provide.
Very good. And obviously, when you come to a category such as freshly squeezed orange juice, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, to me, it seems like this is the perfect opportunity to upsell, to drive more sales, to drive more profits. Just sticking with you for a second, Karen. I mean, in terms of, you mentioned the 6.8% figure there. Is that across the board, or is that specific to the orange juice category?
It's across the board. It was all about the other products packed in glass. We had that campaign in store, so consumers were remembered about all these good things about glass, and they increased their sales in packed products throughout the store. But we do have the insights only of the orange juice, and it is even more incredible for us and for Carrefour. It's a success story in every sense because this activation in this particular category increased sales in 91% in total of the category. So this shows how consumers will buy more of a product when it's packed in glass, and that their decisions, purchasing decisions, are driven by environmentally friendly choices. So, and I think one of the best proofs that this is actually a success, and not only as a pilot test, but to put in place changes towards sustainability, is that we Carrefour here in Spain is actually putting in place this glass option in all the centers that they have here in Spain. So it's 205 centers that will have the glass available for the freshly squeezed orange juice.
Fantastic. So it's a project that, as I said, it evolved out of a marketing communications thing into something much bigger, and now it's going nationwide, which is great to see. Scarlett, you've obviously been listening to Karen, and I know you have at Carrefour. There's a lot of new packaging strategies, packaging options being built into the Carrefour strategy. Maybe you could tell me a little bit about those.
Yeah, this is really at the core of our packaging strategy, is how do we keep consumers at the center. And in terms of new packaging solutions, we really believe in the future of bulk and the future of reuse. We were one of the first retailers to launch Loop, and offering our consumers' favorite products in a reusable packaging. Many of the packaging solutions also include glass. And we're also really pushing for bulk solutions in store. So the example of this project with orange juice is great. We're trying to raise awareness and to really nudge our consumers to move towards this model. And we're testing out different things in store. And we've taken key engagements on this. So for example, in France, we have the objectives by 2025 to have 1,000 products with reusable packaging. We want 500 stores equipped with a deposit system for packaging, and we want more bulk solutions. So we really see this as a growing trend.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Loop there. For those who are unfamiliar with Loop, what is Loop?
So Loop is a project. So it's in partnership with TerraCycle, and it offers your favorite products in reusable packaging. And it's quite beautiful, the marketing around the project, around the products. And then when you return the products, you return the packaging. So it's a deposit system, so that it's cleaned and then reused. So it's really this notion of a loop.
Okay, very good. I imagine there's probably some barriers and obstacles to the rollout of this strategy, Scarlett. Is that right? Some roadblocks you've come up against.
Yeah. So there's the use of deposit systems, and for bulk, there are a number of challenges that keep it from going mainstream. Particularly with bulk, we see the issue of hygiene, food waste in store, the staff needed to manage it in store, and the overall inconvenience for customers. But as I mentioned, we at Carrefour, we believe in this model, and we believe that this is something that will emerge. So we're actually working with startups to address these challenges in store. And we really would like to see this expand, but we need others within this industry to support this movement, as well as glass manufacturers to ensure that the material is adapted for reuse.
Very good. More collaboration needed, in other words. Thanks, Scarlett, for the very interesting point of view on glass in retail, and obviously Karen for providing the context on the Marcom pilot. I should mention that the Marcom pilot is being made available to everyone who is on the webinar today, for those of you in attendance, so you'll be receiving that in due course. But we're now heading into the final part of the webinar, which is opening up the floor to questions from our audience. If you haven't yet issued a question, you can do so on the comments chain on the live stream, or indeed on LinkedIn. But we do have one question that actually I was interested in finding out some answers to. For this is really aimed at Scarlett, I think. For retailers, I guess transportation, logistics. I mean, these are real determining factors when you're selecting products or packaging. In terms of the role of glass, and we talked about glass extensively today. I mean, how does glass and the glass industry respond to those considerations?
So glass, unfortunately, is a heavy material, and in terms of logistics, it does add an added layer of complexity, and there are also costs associated, and contributes to increased CO2 emissions, and even for managing in store, there's difficulty to manage the products as there is as the products are heavy. So any efforts to address this would be key, and these are also considerations that we're taking with us in our reflections with reuse. So we have to make sure that glass is adapted to this.
Yeah. So on the one hand, obviously, glass is potentially heavier. On the other hand, I know there's been efforts to lightweight glass as well. I mean, Karen, have you led any initiatives or any response to, I guess, some of the concerns maybe the retail industry has around glass as a packaging format?
Yes, thank you, Steve, for raising that. Yes, the industry is committed to better their sustainability performance, and we're actually bringing us back to this collaborative spirit. We do join brands for them to create the most sustainable packaging within the concept that they want to create. We have a lot of initiatives in the industry to improve in this sense, and I think that also in the pilot test, what we found out is that these barriers that we thought that maybe the consumers also had regarding weight or fragility of glass were actually broken with this pilot test, because we saw that the increase in sales of the orange juice was corresponded directly to how many glass bottles were available. So this means that people were not stopped to buy glass because of these concepts. The sustainable benefits were there, and were more important than the inconvenience that it could be by taking glass, or because it's heavy, or because it's fragile. And this is a fantastic news, because everybody, I think, brands, glass industry, retailers, we want to help consumers to move towards sustainability and choices. And so in that sense, we're working in our side, but we're also trying to educate consumers And regarding what Scarlett was saying about the loop that they're putting in place, I think that's a fantastic initiative too. Just to reassure that in glass, we also have our proper loop in terms of recycling, because glass is 100% recyclable endlessly without any kind of loss in quantity or quality, and allows us to be recycled again into a glass packaging, say for food and beverages. So we have also our loop, and it's also a very hygienic material that allows us to be an ally to this switch into reusability also. And it's actually already put in place very strongly in Oreca here in Spain.
Very good. And actually, just on Spain, I mean, obviously, outside of the Carrefour project, I mean, is there a general kind of consumer acceptance or a general move towards reusability, like what Scarlett was talking about, reducing CO2 emissions in packaging and things like that? I mean, do consumers get it, I guess, on the ground in Spain?
Yes, they do, and maybe one of the best signs about this is also the recycling rate that we have here in Spain, which is quite high. It's up to 80% nearly in 2019. So this is a fantastic news. This means that consumers are already taking actively advantages of glass, and the reusability of glass is very much used in the Oreca sector because logistics and also the market characteristics allow the reusability to be put in place, and it's very much used in the Oreca sector, along with the recyclability aspects of glass. So you have those two options where glass can fit into and help brands and retailers to achieve their sustainability strategies.
Very interesting. Another question coming in here. In terms of loop, Scarlett, we were talking about loop earlier on. Are some product categories, are they an easier fit for the loop system, or is there a bit of work to be done in terms of product reformulation, packaging reformulation?
Yeah, thank you for this question. So one of the key issues that I think one of the barriers that are preventing loop from becoming more mainstream, we're working towards that, in lack of variety in products. So customers have to ensure that they're finding their top products when switching to this model. And I think we're seeing that customers are gravitating more and more to this model. In terms of packaging, I would say that it really, there's a study that's done beforehand to see what kind of packaging is most adapted to the product. In terms of glass, I know offhand I can cite a few that Danone has used it for yogurt. I've seen it with certain juices such as Tropicana. So it's really when the packaging can really valorize the product in a way that makes sense for the consumer, because it has to be convenient for the consumer.
Absolutely. That's like being convenient is key. I think we've got time for just one more question. It's around CO2. This is for Karen. I know the industry has made great strides in terms of CO2, reducing CO2. There's a project called Furnaces of the Future. Maybe you could tell us a bit about that, Karen, before we wrap up.
Yes, there's many paths towards decarbonization, and our industry is committed to neutral production of glass packaging. So there are a lot of initiatives put in place. We are investing a lot in hybrid technology, and along with more other innovation activities, we really see that we can bring down the CO2 emissions. And in that sense, I invite the attendees to also look into the Close the Glass Loop project that we have in Europe. And this is to increase also the collection of glass, so we can put more into the furnace. And this will also help significantly the CO2 emissions. So we are working together, again, trying to do this collaboration within our own industry to achieve these goals.
Excellent. Very good. So we're just coming up to the half hour. I think we've run out of time. Unfortunately, there's no time for any more questions. Thank you again very much to everyone who joined us today for this LinkedIn live session. Thanks as well to Scarlette and Karen for your time, for your fantastic insights. The next episode of the Future Made Clear interviews is going to take place in March. So invitations to that will be sent out soon. And once again, thank you to everyone who joined us today. I hope you all found it as interesting as I did. Thank you.